Welcome to our webinar on Business Basics 101, and we've called this How Not to Lose Your Mind Starting a Business. So at the beginning of your business, what are the basic things that you need to get in place to avoid the problem of losing your mind when you start your business or down the track as your business grows? So we're going to get started on our webinar. Thank you for joining us. So a little bit about myself. I'm a chartered accountant and certified business advisor. So working with small business owners for over 25 years, working with all stages of business from startup or pre-startup, which is what we're going to focus on a bit today, is that pre-start and startup phase, right through to businesses that are growing, revisiting their business plans. You know, they're at a mature stage. What's the next chapter that they're going to write, or how do they actually close or exit from their business at a profit? So different stages of business and different business stages need different kinds of advice. The principles are all the same, but we do a lot of work with people just starting out in business and making sure that they get started on the right track to avoid all those headaches going forward. So a little bit more about us. So yes, we do have a background, technical expertise, qualifications, and networks to other advisors to make sure our business clients get the best advice possible. This is going to be general information. If you do want specific advice, it's best to get that for your own circumstances, because no two businesses are alike, and no two people have the same circumstances. So please get specific advice from suitably qualified people as well. So one of the questions we're asked is now a good time to be starting a business? Well, that depends. It always depends, but now is no worse time to be starting a business than any other time. There are opportunities around. It depends on what kind of business you want to start and what your goals are. So the answer is to the question, is now a good time to be starting your business, will depend on you and what you want to achieve, what kind of business you want to run, what your market is, how many hours you want to work. And we're going to go into those I guess ideals about what you want your business to be like and how they impact how you set up your business to start with. Because if we set up our business correctly, we're going to avoid a lot of headaches, a lot of frustration moving forward, and we're going to be well prepared for when things don't go the way that they are planned or that you'd hope that they would go. So we're going to make sure that we get in place a good solid structure, solid background of what our business is all about before we get moving and you know, go and set up the company and do all the registrations and buy lots of stock and then find out that life is not exactly what we anticipated. So I came across an article recently which captured some signs of what a successful business is. And there are a few very key points in here. I've just pulled out some of those. So a successful business has people that buy from you. There's no point having a great product if nobody buys from you. You want your customers to tell people about you. So if they buy from you and they tell their friends, particularly in a retail or a e-commerce situation, then that is what you want. Future-proof is a key thing here, because a good business today, you want it to be able to last. And there are plenty of examples of businesses that didn't future-proof. One of the classics is the Kodak example, where they rejected the idea of moving to digital cameras because Kodak sold film for cameras. If you can remember what film for cameras were, that was their business, and they were given the opportunity to move into that digital camera space and rejected it because it wasn't their business. As a result, you don't hear a lot about Kodak now, except when people mention that they were a great business and are no longer around. So that's why we talk about having a future-proof business, something that's scalable. If you wanting to have a business that grows, it needs to be able to scale. And we're going to examine that idea of what is a scalable business during this morning's presentation. As the business grows, you're not going to be able to do everything. So we need to have a process, build a method into our business, structure into our business so that it can grow efficiently. as any business owner is going to make mistakes. The key here is if you learn from your mistakes or whether you keep making the same ones. So you will make mistakes. Every business owner does. It's just whether you use that as a learning experience or whether you continue to persist with that, making those same mistakes. Having imitators is a sign that you have a successful business, because if people want to copy you, it means you're doing things well and you have a good product. So that is good, but we can also look at how we protect that, the value of your business, and build that into your structure as well. And a successful business, the sign here is you're fully committed to it. And we're going to talk about what's involved in running business. And I want to talk about different styles of businesses, because when people say they want to start up a business, there are many different ideas about what a business actually is and what's involved. And we're going to talk about those. So before you start, there's some critical things we need to work out. And the first one is, why are you going into business? Why are you going into business? Why are you doing it? The reason why drives everything else that you do. Because if you don't have a good reason for going into business, there is a lot of work involved in running a business. And in many cases, the amount of work isn't justified because of the reward. The rewards are not there if the business is not run well, or the market's not for the product is not available. So we need to look at why you're going into business. And a lot of the reasons that we're given, these are fairly consistent. So we have, why do you go into business? To make more profit, make more money from my business than I am as an employee, as a paid employee. Some people like to be able to choose what they do and who they do it for. So choose the types of work that you do and who you do it for, and having more time. So this is where family time comes in, and not just more time, but also quality of time. So quality, being able to take holidays, etc. when you want. If you want to have holidays, and we need to build that into your plan for your business, but having more time. And this is a pretty current concept. People are enjoying some extra time from not commuting, not having to go into offices. So there is more time, but what do you do with that time? There is an opportunity here, some flexibility, and we're seeing more and more people's business and work arrangements having a lot more flexibility due to the changed circumstances that we're facing. Some people want to go into business because they've got a great idea and they want to change the world. So it's solving a big issue, a big product issue, and that's a bit grander scheme. And then there's the other one, which is fairly common, is I can do it better than my boss, so I'm going to go and do it myself. And we see a lot of that, where frustration with the business or getting instructions from a particular employer, and they decide that they are going to go and start their own business because they can do it better and do it their way. So coming back to, as well, choosing what you do and how you do it, and again, who you do it for. So there are a lot of different reasons why people go into business. Now, I mentioned different types of businesses, and look, I'm not going to talk about service, retail, manufacture, trades. They're all different types of businesses, but what I want to look at here is different styles of business and where it actually really is a business or just a little bit of extra on the side. Or on the side is a way of talking. So we have, the first one I've got there is a hobby. Is that you do something as a hobby and you'd like to make a little bit of money from it. So you might sell a few things online, and really the scale of what you're doing is not going to amount to a business. It's just how much time you've got to produce your own product. You might sell it a few items here at maybe market stalls or things like that, but it's really a hobby. It's not your main source of income. It's just something you enjoy and you like to get a little bit of money for it. So we need to look into whether you're actually running a business in that sense. So the Australian Taxation Office has some good guidance on whether your business is a hobby or a business, and that will affect your income tax obligations and what you do need to report. So the hobby is probably not going to be the kind of thing that we consider a business. We have what we call a side hustle, and this is where you have a full-time job or maybe a part-time job, and you're creating your business on the side. So you're still employed, you've still got a regular source of income, but you're creating a business on the side. And we see a lot of freelancing or online businesses, so design businesses, e-commerce businesses being run on the side. So limited time available because you've still got a full-time job, you've still got other commitments, but you're running that business in parallel. And how much time you can devote to that business is really limited by your circumstances, so your full-time employment. Whether you can choose to plan to leave your employment and grow that side hustle into a full-scale business, that it will affect how you move forward. The next one we're looking at is something a bit more common called the gig economy, and we see this has become more common with your Ubers and your Lyft drivers and your delivery people. So, and the freelancers as well is responding by providing a service on demand, but it's not a full-scale business because you are taking instructions from somebody else. You're doing it to their method, to their rates of pay. You don't have as much choice about who you do your work for, particularly if you're going through another source. So if you're driving for one of the Uber or Lyft or their structure, you use their structure, you get your jobs through them, you get paid via their channel. It's really not a business as such. So you can make money from that, but it's not really a full-scale business. You can't sell your Uber business basically because your contract is with that head company. Contractors is another one, and this is where the line starts to blur between a business and employment. Often we see that certain aspects you still need to incorporate to win certain contracts, and that's been around for quite a while. Is it because of risk and obligations and reporting and administration and things like headcounts? To be able to work for a particular organization, they won't employ you as an employee, but they'll engage you as a contractor. So you need to have a business vehicle, a business structure set up, and you contract to them. But often with that contractor arrangement, you're still on a fixed contract, so you're pretty much limited to earning income from one or maybe 2 or 3 sources. So you're very limited, and we have these arrangements in place, and the tax office refers to these in a lot of cases as personal services businesses. So the business is really dependent fully on you as the person driving it. You do all the work. You might even be under instruction from the people that you're contracting to. So we can go into this personal services business in a lot more detail, but that's a topic for another day. But at the end of the day, the business still depends wholly on you. You do everything. You don't always have choice about what you're doing and who you're working to, particularly if you sign contract which will prevent you from working for other people. I've got here investor dependent, and that is where you're going to grow a business, but you don't have the funds and you're going to need investment involvement in there. And to do that, you're going to have to go through processes of raising funds, having a business case, pitching to investors, applying for funding, but you are going to have have a lot more accountability about your actions and how your funds are being spent, where it's coming from, and you are going to be fairly dependent on outside involvement from investors. And when people are investing, they will want to have involvement in how you're running the business and what you're doing with their funds. That's pretty natural. So there are a lot of those businesses out there, and particularly in the software business or the research and development business, we're seeing those sorts of things happen. And the last one I've got down there is a saleable business. Now, it's not the least of the different types of businesses, and it's probably the one that I get more excited about, is the business that is designed with a product or a service involved. There is a market for it, a definite market for it. it can grow. You can involve other people in the business. It's not going to be dependent on you. And at the end of the day, or at any point, when you decide that you want to leave that business, you have a business that is in a form, is making profit, has value, and that profit and that value is not dependent on you remaining in the business. And then that way you can actually unlock the value of that business when you exit it. And that's the kind of business that I get excited about, those kinds of businesses that grow independently and can have value for when you want to exit your business. So before you start your business, to avoid these headaches, avoid losing your mind, you've got to have a clear understanding of why you're going into business and what you want to achieve. So that's why we were talking about the different kinds of businesses there. So if you just want as a hobby or a bit on the side, capped at a certain amount of income, that's going to limit what you need to be doing and how much time you're going to have available for it. But if you're wanting to grow a business, you're going to have to devote a lot more to it. You have to do a lot more planning, and you will need to have the finances available to you, or be able to source those finances to do the work. And to fund it, because there is a lot more involved in starting a business. And one of the misconceptions is that there is funding available for startups, that there's a lot of funding available for startups. And I'd like to say that in limited cases there is, but in most cases you're going to have to fund it yourself. There are hundreds of business proposals put before investors each week, and not all of them are going to have a solid business case, have a market or a product that gets the investor excited. So you are going to have to fund this in a lot of your own case. You're going to have your own funds available. And then, how much profit do you need to make? As a guide, I like to say that if you're not going to be making as much profit as you're currently getting paid, then you need to consider, really, is the effort going to be worth the outcome? And it may still be, because it may supply other values to you, like the quality of time, the lifestyle, choices about who you work for. So there are some questions to answer there. There are also some other questions in terms of when you're starting a business, and particularly when you're going out and launching a new business and leaving paid employment, how much cash do you need each week to cover your living expenses and your other obligations? So the business needs to generate that much cash for you. And I'm going to come back to this as well, but cash generated by the business after meeting all your taxation and employment obligations. That's very important. We'll talk a bit more about that. How long do you want to be operating this business? So many people say that the business is only going to take them 30, 40 hours a week, but in actual fact, they end up working a lot longer, or they're going to be in it for a few years, but they haven't got the business profitable. So how long are you prepared to be operating that business? Are you looking to sell it in the future? And if so, what's the plan? How long down the track, and how much do you want to get from it? Freedoms, being able to choose who you work for, when you work, how much you work, what kinds, those sorts of things. So are you ready to start a business? So have a think about, what does your ideal business going to look like? Or what do you want it to look like? And keep that picture there, because we're going to start looking at some of the other things that you do need to take into account. And these are not as fancy. These are probably not the exciting parts of running a business, but you do need to be aware of it. Because if you're not, you are going to get into a situation where you are frustrated, overwhelmed, under stress, unnecessary stress. And this is a situation we want to get away from or avoid in the first place. And part of the way we can do that is, most people go into business with a view of what their business is going to look like and how it's going to improve their life and how it's going to provide for them. On the other side, what the business actually looks like, we see people working many more hours than they need to, not making as much profit as they want, They don't have the flexibility. They haven't had a holiday in 3 years. They've got a lot more paperwork, a lot more administration, and they're doing that instead of selling, creating. They're not spending as much time doing the technical stuff that they really enjoyed and got excited about. They're spending more time running the day-to-day business. And there's a big disparity between what the ideal business looks like and what the business looks like now. And that's where a lot of the conflict is and a lot of the stress is created. So we can avoid that. And part of it is recognizing right from the beginning that as a business owner, starting a business, you are going to be wearing many, many different hats. You are not just going to be the person running the technical side of the business and producing. You are going to be the HR person, the accounts receivable person, the finance person, the bookkeeping, the OH&S, occupational health and safety. You're going to be responsible for the legal obligations. You're going to be responsible for the tax obligations. You're going to be the marketing person. So as this person starting your business, you are wearing many, many different hats. And when you're wearing one hat, you can't effectively do other functions. So you do need to be aware of that. And there are other resources and other webinars we've done in the past, and these are available on our YouTube and Vimeo and through our social media, but about how you can run your business more efficiently. So we're not going to dwell too much on that, but be aware of that as a business owner. When you start running a business, you are going to have many, many different roles, not just the role of producing the technical product and collecting the money. So it helps to be prepared. So knowing that right from the beginning, that there is a lot more to running the business than just producing and selling and collecting the cash. There is going to be a lot more involved. So it's very important to get advice right from the beginning. And where is the beginning? Well, the beginning is before you actually start to set up your business. We talked about those reasons for why you're actually going into business, being very clear about that. Because that drives the decisions about how you set up your business, which structure you use, and all the other steps that you need to take. So if you're looking to grow your business, you are going to invest in marketing a lot more than somebody that is only just going to keep doing work on the side for their friends or people that are referred to them. So how you decide you want to run your business or where you want your business to look like, that ideal business that we talked about, is going to have a big influence on the steps you take in setting up your business and running your business, growing your business for the future. So working out exactly what you want to be doing and what your business needs to look like, what it needs to provide for you before you start the business is a key step. So once we know that, the next stage is, well, what structure are you going to use for your business? So we're looking at the structure. So the structure will depend on what you're doing. So if you're just doing a hobby on the side, you're not really running a business, particularly unless you're supplying a very risky product. In most cases, a hobby is just going to be run as a sole trader. And likewise, just those little side hustles, the little bit of income on the side, the expense of setting up a proper business structure is not going to be warranted. So there are traps of having all your income coming in as a sole trader compared to different structures, but simplicity, a sole trader is the most simple structure, easiest to set up, easiest to wind down. And if you're not in a risky area, then it's a good structure. If you're not going to be employing people, then sole trader is probably going to be the most beneficial structure for you to use. If you are going to be employing people, then you are immediately your risk increases as an employer. So we want to separate the risk from your personal assets. And we talk about this in a guide that we've prepared on choosing the right business structure, because there are a lot of different aspects to choosing a structure. Depending on what your business needs to look like, what it's going to be doing, and what your risks are, and taxation does come into play in determining your structure. Access to funding through government grants, or if you're doing research and development, certain things are better placed in different structures. And we're going into that in a lot more detail. We do have the business structure guide available for download from our website. So if you go to pretiumsolutions.com.au and search for business structures, you'll be able to download the business structure guide. But the structure you have in place will affect how your business performs going forward. It also affects things like how saleable the business is and access to different government benefits as well. So getting the structure right is important. Obviously, the more complex structure or the more protections you put in place through your structure, there is more cost in firstly setting it up, but also managing it from your compliance obligations going forward. So bear that in mind as well. And that's why if you're only doing a side hustle or a small business, sole trader structure is probably still going to be ideal for you. Location is an interesting concept these days because we are more and more in an online world, a virtual world. We used to be able to order stock from China, and it would arrive within a number of days. And but what we're seeing at the moment is a change. A lot of people are wanting more locally produced goods to sell. So if you're selling where are you sourcing your stock from? Who are you selling to? And what are the costs of supplying to them? Postage is a cost, or delivery costs. So where is your business going to be located? Is it going to be a physical business, or is it going to be a virtual business or an online business? How is it going to be structured? And that will affect who your actual customers will be and how they interact with you. So getting an idea of that location is important. Are you going to be dealing with overseas markets, importing or exporting? So depending on how you do that, there could be some different issues in terms of finance, GST obligations for importing and getting your goods released through customs. If you're selling overseas, there could be some trademark issues or patent issues that you need to be aware of. So there are different aspects to it. Are you focusing only on servicing a local area, or are you going to be a national business? What are you able to actually do through your business? So thinking about location is important. And are there other businesses in the same location? So our local small shopping area only would have less than 20 shops there, but at one stage we had 4 pizza shops. Now, it either tells you that our area eats a lot more pizza proportionally than most people, but I think what we found was that 2 of those pizza shops didn't do particularly well because of the not enough supply. There were 4 shops and the same number of customers that ate pizza. So if there's already existing businesses in that location and you're choosing a physical location, is there demand for another business? Answering that question before you start can save a lot of hassle and a lot of expense. So planning is really important. Planning, and when I say planning, it's not just planning about what your business is going to do and where you're going to buy your stock from and how much you're going to sell it for and what you're going to do with the profit. You do need to research whether there's a market for your product. Is there a demand for your product? Because there's no point having a great product if nobody's going to buy it. And your family is not the best market research tool here. You need to go outside of that and do a lot more research about the demand for your product. It's no good saying that your family members are going to buy from you, because once they've got your product, unless it's something they need to buy on a regular basis, they're not going to keep coming back to you. You're not going to have that lengthy or that market demand for your product on an ongoing basis. So is there a demand? What else is happening in the industry? Like I said, if you're looking at location and there's 3 suppliers in that location, how are you going to capture the market if you come in as a 4th supplier? Looking at those sorts of things. How are you going to market your business? Are you just going to work on referral networks, or are you going to need to invest in advertising and marketing? And how are you going to make sure that marketing is effective? So what are you going to need to do? Planning for how much cash you're going to need in your business. What are the expenses going to be? I find that a lot of startup businesses underestimate substantially the costs of running their business. They really underestimate those costs. With their marketing plans, they might put a nominal amount in, but then realize that to do, say, their Google AdWords campaign effectively, they need to increase their spending. So have a look. There are some statistics around on what businesses are spending, what standard businesses in particular industries are spending in terms of things like marketing, wages, rents, what their margins are, how they sell it for $100 and they might be making $80 gross on the sale, but they've still got to factor in all their overhead costs. So you do need to do some planning, particularly around cash flow and cash flow competition, but also make sure you've got the finance. So you need to know how much you're going to be spending and when you're going to start getting income, and then compare that to what funds do you have available to make sure this business goes forward and is successful, because you're still going to have your living costs. So you need to still fund that. So how long will it be before you run out of cash? So you need to make sure that you're making sales at a profit and collecting the cash before you get to that point. And then how do you plan to grow your business sustainably? So do your research. There's a lot more than just having a nice product, having a great idea for a product, having a great idea for a website, nice logo, and getting it out there. There is a lot more planning you need to do before you start a business. So the other thing to look at is funding and cash flow. Now, there are grants available, but I do want to say grants can be very useful in growing a business, but they happen after the event, after the fact. So you will need to have spent the money before you get the grant funding, and those grant fundings usually come with obligations to report and be accountable for how you spent the funds. So there's a lot of excitement out there at the moment about all these grants to help reinvigorate and encourage new businesses and help businesses to grow, but there are conditions on them and you've got to meet the criteria. So be very careful about what is actually expected of those grants and what the conditions are before you include that in your projections. Also look at, there's a limited number of recipients for many grants, and it's quite common for that number to be quite low proportionally. So far more applications than funds are available. Funding for startup, look, talking with, particularly with Jason Smith from Capital Plus Finance, we're talking about funding for startups that, look, you need a history of profitable trading. If you've got property that you can offer as security for your business, then that will help with future funding, but you do need to have a history of profitable trading. And a lot of businesses don't make a profit in the first 1, 2, or maybe even 3 years. So we need to make sure that you do have available funds to finance your business and also to finance your living costs while you're growing your business and getting it started. I'm talking about scaling. So scaling is something that often gets confused with growth. Now, you can grow a business because your turnover increases and your activity increases and you're doing a lot more and you're selling a lot more. But as the business grows and we have to ship more product, we put more employees on to help manage and do the shipping and take the orders, manage the process. But we can grow the business without actually being more profitable. And there's plenty of examples of businesses that have grown way too fast and have not had the resources in place and not been making profit as they grow. So as they've grown, they've done things faster. There's been more rejects, more waste. So growth is not always good. Profitable growth is good. And how do you make sure you grow your business profitably? Well, the scaling comes down from the term, economies of scale. So the larger your business is, or the more productive it is, or the better the resources, you can do more efficiently, and in this case, we're talking about more profitably. By scaling your business as well, you're taking away the dependence on that business on you as the owner. And this is really important if you're growing a business with a view of exiting the business in the future at a profit, at a good value. So you need to grow a business by scaling it efficiently. One of the things that often gets overlooked is what registrations are required when you're starting your business. And there are many different registrations. So some of the immediate ones that come to mind are your taxation registration. So your tax file number, your ABN or Australian business number, goods and services tax registration, pay-as-you-go holding registration if you're employing. Maybe you're importing, so you need to go through and register there. Do you need a license for your business? Get to know what your obligations are. Workers' compensation, what insurances do you need, what reporting requirements are, additional licensing. Make sure you understand what that is before you commit to spending money and committing to things like signing up for leases for property, for office space and services and internet. Make sure you understand what licensing is required and how long it's going to take to get those licenses. Listening to a podcast the other day of a successful business. It's now successful, but when it started, it grew as a home-based business. And it was growing and invested in some marketing and suddenly had a large number of customers, being profitable, things were looking good. And they get a call from the government health department advising them that they were operating illegally because they were producing food from a home kitchen. So they had to shut down their business immediately. Fortunately, they were able to redo their plan, understand their licensing requirements, and establish, again, using commercial facilities. And they've grown their business successfully because they've had a plan, they've invested in marketing, they've understood their obligations going forward, they've got the help from the right people, and they've kept the right records going forward. So making sure you know what obligations you have in terms of licensing and registration before you start. You can avoid a lot of heartache by doing those things correctly. So I talked about growing profitably. One of the key things here is selling your products and services for more than what they cost to produce. I was talking with Bruce Gleason. In fact, I interviewed Bruce Gleason for our podcast series, The Business Behind Your Business. And we're talking about some of the common reasons why businesses fail and what goes wrong. And one of the most simple or fundamental things that stop businesses from being profitable and having financial difficulty is they don't sell at a profit. They don't factor in all the costs to produce their product, and they sell at a price well below that. And then the next thing is they don't collect cash. They don't collect the cash quickly enough and efficiently. So they're often buying stock in advance, having to pay for it in advance, selling it below cost or adding in all the costs of wages and freight and what it costs to actually produce or sell. And then they don't collect the cash quickly. So there's a couple of the key things we need to make sure that our business must do: sell at a profit and collect the cash. Then what do you do with the profits? Well, here we come down to our next couple of issues in terms of business failure, is that you don't pay yourself a wage. You've got to make sure that your business is paying you, so that you get into the habit of drawing a regular amount. Keep your business accounts separate from your personal accounts. Pay yourself a wage regularly and pay your personal expenses out of that wage. And then pay your taxes. Pay your income tax, your withholding tax, your goods and services tax. Pay them on time, and make sure that you're allowing for that in your cash flow projections. And then reinvest in your business as well. So you are going to have to keep cash aside to invest in the future operations. So identify how much you need, what equipment you're going to need going forward. Are you going to need extra resources, and budget for that? So keep focused on what's important. And when you do this, you can help to avoid all that unnecessary stress. Knowing exactly what the things that you should be doing in your business, what you need to do, that can help avoid the unnecessary stress, the frustrations. And make sure you regularly check in with how your business is going, what your progress is. You've got goals. Let's say your goal in your first year is to make $100,000 of profit. Well, how are you tracking on that? Each month, how much profit are you actually making? And this is where the systems that you use, getting advice on setting up your business correctly, come back to help you do these things easier. Make it easy to know exactly where you're at and what your cash position is and how effective your plans are, how realistic your plans are. Do you need to change your plan? Do you need to change your product? Is your strategy effective? You won't be able to know that if you don't have a plan to start with and if you don't have a way of monitoring what's going on in your business easily. So we need to make sure that you keep focused, keep on track. Make sure you've got an action plan. Any of you that have heard me talk before or previous webinars or on a podcast, an action plan, not a business plan, an action plan. Specifying what you want to achieve, where you want to be, where are you now, and what are the steps you're going to need to take to move from where you are now to where you want to be. Not just what steps, but what resources are you going to need? What help are you going to need to get? And make sure that you focus on those. Focus on the key things. Not everything at once, but just focus on the key things. Document that down. Okay. The key here is make sure you get the right advice on every aspect of your business. There is a lot of material out there, but getting the right advice, being prepared before you start will help avoid many, many issues, many stresses, many problems. There will be problems that arise that are unavoidable and circumstantial. We can't avoid that. That's going to happen. But the more prepared we are, the better we plan, the better we understand our business and what's going on in it, the better we know our figures and exactly where we are. We will cope with those situations far, far better. We will be more profitable. We'll have a business that we enjoy, that creates value, enables us to have time off, spend that quality time with our families that we want, or have that time away on holidays. But be prepared. So just recapping, getting your new business off the ground, off to a flying start, are things that you can get a lot of help with to start with. So talking about setting up your business, should you be in business? What are you hoping to achieve? What structure should you use? So I know a lot of accountants out there will set up a structure for you. You come in and say, I want a company, they'll set you up a company and off you go. But there's so much more to it. Making sure you have the correct tax registrations in place and that you understand what is required and what you need to be doing. Work with your accountant. Use them as an asset. They're not a cost. They're an asset to help you grow and run your business more efficiently. Get advice on setting up your ledger correctly. Get set up and trained on how to use it effectively. And all people that need to be involved need to have training here. Why I say get your ledger set up correctly, I see a lot of ledgers accounting systems set up. And look, they're easy to set up. They're so much easier these days. But they are designed for business owners who aren't accountants. But there's still things that are not set up correctly by business owners because they're not accountants. And you don't go into business to be an accountant. But you need to get advice on setting that up correctly, making sure your data is processed correctly and that your reports actually mean anything. And then what reports you should be looking at and what they mean. You can streamline a lot of processes. So how you capture your data. So particularly around expenses and costs and wages, those things can be streamlined incredibly these days. Avoid double entry. Just make it easier to do business. Getting in place a plan right from the beginning. And this is where we do this, I'm calling it a business plan here, but it really is a one-page action plan, a detailed plan. putting in place your short and long-term goals, but also highlighting what are the immediate actions you need to take that are going to have the most impact and create the most momentum for your business going forward. So we've talked about some resources, and we provide a lot of resources. We're big on educating people. We want people to have good quality information before they make these decisions. So on our website, on the pretiumsolutions.com.au website, we have a business startup guide, which has a number of or some checklists about some of the questions you need to answer before you decide to start up a business. And please download that, and I'll send through these links again to the attendees. And ask questions. If you don't know the answer, ask the questions. But the questions in this checklist will help you formulate how ready you are for running a business or starting a business. And then when we come to the idea of structures, we've also produced a more detailed guide talking about business structures. And we look at things like risk and taxation and flexibility, but also, how, what are you going to do with your business going forward? Are you just looking to keep it low key, keep it in the family? You'll use a different structure towards compared to if you're going to bring in other investors or third parties to be part of your business. So there are some different issues there. So there is a guide there available on our website as well. And look, we do have a number of resources available, particularly in terms of setting up your accounting systems, different tools. There's a library of our webinars that we've run in the past, and different links as well. So there's resources there for every stage of your business, but particularly getting started. And once you're in starting your business, then it does help to keep getting advice and feedback. And we've discovered that a lot of people will go to one source of advice, and it's like looking at an elephant from only one angle. You're not seeing the whole picture. So what we find is that often, particularly around, say, business planning, there are issues that need to be addressed from a legal point of view, particularly if you've got a business partner, compared to an accounting role, and then what are the risks. So you need to have feedback from different people. So you've got your lawyer, your insurance advisor, your accountant, maybe even your IT people at that point, or even your finance people. So getting advice consistent around your business from multiple angles, multiple viewpoints, is really important. Now, how do you do that in a cost-effective manner? It's pretty expensive to go and have individual consulting from each of these people or each of these specialties. And often you'll get disjointed advice, and that's a problem we've addressed. And we've created a client advisory board for clients that we work with on an ongoing basis. And that's bringing together people from finance, law, business law, insurance, human resources, sales, marketing, finance, IT, motivation, all of those different aspects. But what we do is provide a unified viewpoint for business owners. And then, there are other courses. So some members of our advisory board from Keystone Advisory have put together probably the next step, really. Once you've started your business, there are a number of other skills that you need, and they've put this together in a great course, the Entrepreneurial Growth Program. And there's 8 modules to this, looking at different things like behavior, your mindset as a business owner, looking at strategic planning, how you understand metrics, customers, marketing, sales, constraints on your business. And they put together this great course, which we're very pleased to tell you about. And for anybody attending today, there is going to be a discount code available, or discount on this program that will be available to you as an attendee. So we'll be sending out the details of that to you as well. If you like to listen to podcasts, or if you spend a lot of time in the car, you should be listening to podcasts. And we've created a podcast in conjunction with our advisory board and tapping into all of their expertise and skills to talk about things that business owners need to know. So it's the business behind your business podcast, helping you as a business owner grow your business. And it's like having your own board of advisors, your own board of experienced professionals advising you on your business. So the podcast is available from the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website, or you can subscribe to it using your favorite podcast player. So it's available for you in very many formats. So grab your podcast player, look up the episodes, and subscribe so you don't miss the future upcoming episodes, because we've got some great ones coming up. At all times, we're here to help. It is a daunting prospect. There is some fear and worry about starting a business. Is it the right thing to be doing? Or once you've started your business, am I doing the right thing? Why is it not what I expected it to be? So we're here as accountants and business advisors to help you grow your business profitably, but also grow it so that it's less stress for you, that it is a business that is meeting the needs that you have, creating your ideal business and making sure that at the end of the day, you've had a profitable business. You can exit from it at a profit, unlock the value, and having known that you've been able to enjoy the things that really matter to you. Sign up to be notified of future webinars that we are running, and listen to the podcast. But if you're starting a business, please download the checklist on getting started in business from our website.